Hi guys, this is Abdurrahman Gilal, and in this video I'll tell you something about dollar underscore server variable. So what is dollar underscore server variable? It is a super global variable which basically keeps the information about server environment, header, and other environments. Other information such as client information, client request information, and so much. For example, if you're accessing server, so server would try to identify the IP address that you are calling through. So most of the time when you're making a web application, you should know that there are certain restrictions sometimes. So there are certain different types of rules and regulation from countryside, like a data protection rules and so many other things. So you have to identify the client's IP address to make sure that you are providing them specific, type of services, right? So when you are trying to handle the request from client, sometimes you have to also see what kind of, let's say, uh, you know, request, what kind of, HTTP method request is being posted. For example, are they using post method or get method? So many other things. And sometimes you wanted to make your log files, so you have to use the information that you are collecting from users, from user side. So everything in order to do that, you have to work with this specific variable that is called dollar underscore server. So I have a quick program that I have written because most of the time when we work with this type of things, we also use the forms that when a user is trying to log in, let's say this is my username and password, for example. So I'm going to put like, just I've written like name in my email. So I'm going to give any email address. So you see I have a basic page written that form submitted, and the name of the person is Abdul Rahman, and the email address that he is using is currently abdul.rahman@ucd.ie. So this could be any. So here you got the server information. So right. So here you see like server name is localhost. So let me show you the code. So how do we do that? This is a very basic form of HTML that's like pretty straightforward that you can simply, you simply download, and then you make it, and then you're gonna go into the server page that is, for example, server information.php. This is what I made. So I have just given you for example that if you're working with a server, so you have these all different types of properties or attributes that you can handle. You should remember that the dollar underscore server is a super global variable that is composite variable, which means it keeps a lot of information. So the quick way, if you wanted to see like var dump, you should do it like var dump. So you should do like that way. If you have any specific, variable, then you're gonna see. But if not, then these everything will be printed here. So I will go. I'll try my best to give you a brief explanation of a few of very important, properties of this. Let's say if I wanted to come here and try to refresh it. So you see here. See, so much information is here, so much information. So you have like a unique ID, you have like HTTP host, like local host, HTTP connection, like keep alive. If you have cache or something, so much very useful information is there. For example, what kind of operating system is being used, what is type of agent. For example, I'm using this Macintosh Intel Mac, blah blah blah. And also like what is the address, so like IP address that I'm using through. So there are so much information that I can get from this simple one variable as soon as a client is putting a request from any server, so sorry, from any machine. So let me just simply come up here. So the first variable that I'm trying to explain you is like, let's say, is about like request method. So if request method is post, then only you get this through. If the request method is, let's say, get, you can write get here. So if you have any request method that is you're not sure with, you can write the, that you can do many other ways by simply global. You can also use, okay. So let's say first thing is that HTML, a special character. This is a special kind of function that basically helps you if the information that is coming from a client has some attributes that may be useful for HTML. For example, you have a less than or equals to sign, which is the taking best approach. So that's this useful thing that if you have any information, for example, client is sending information like this way, for instance, the client is trying to say H1. So here, like H1, if you write, not in special characters, so the name can be. So did I post it? Yeah, I did not save it. I'm sorry about that. So let's go back here and then submit here. You see, so this is just going to help me to have this HTML tag. Otherwise, if it was not there, then what's going to happen? You're going to see. So if it was not there, so I'm gonna submit, you see the name has gone big. So HTML kind of characters that you want to keep them as the characters, not the, tags. So you basically want to use this method called HTML special characters, right? So I'm just gonna keep it like that way. So in case that my requests come and I don't want to pass like that, so it's up to me, right? So let's go back and it doesn't make much sense, but sometimes user pass different types of text through the forms, so which may create some trouble, some SQL injection kind of things that we'll learn later. So you have to know that how I can, we can use specifically. So that's the same thing we did with the, email address, and then form submitted was just a message, and this is just a name and everything. So the first thing is that information about server, right? So you can put the server name here, which means what kind of a server are you coming through? Let's say if I submit, I'm a localhost, you're gonna see here, I'm using a localhost. What if this file has been posted on a, hosted server? So the information will be different. So I have already this, uh, hosted server here. So let me simply drag and drop these two files there. I'm just gonna be putting them there, and I'm gonna refresh my call info dot, and then here I put the same information. Let's say I put the same email address. So you see here the server name is different. Here is localhost and here is glal.infy.uk. So I hope that makes some sense that, like if you're working on local machine, which is very important to, which is very commonly understood, that localhost will show you the localhost. Okay, so let's go further. Let's say you wanted to know what is the IP address of the user, for example, server address, like from where your system is being running. So what you have to do is to keep that the dollar underscore server the same, and here you can put like server adder. The server adder will tell you what is the IP address the server is hosting. So right now I am using this simple local host. Sorry, I'm using this. So surely it will return me one, which means this loopback address, which is 127.0.0.1. So that's why like it does not make much sense here. But let's say if I wanted to change it here, then how it's gonna happen. So let me engrave this line of code from here. Let's say from here and then paste it here. I just save it and I run it. Let's say. So you see here, I have a different address. So this server that is glal.infy.uk is basically using this server address. This is perfectly fine. And then if you wanted to see like more like what you can do, like what time, what HTTP protocol, let's say I'm gonna see like what kind of protocols being used. So server protocol that's being used to response the user. So here you're gonna write the, server underscore protocol. Okay, so make sure that you're writing in capital letters, so in order to avoid the problems. Okay, you see, I'm using HTTP server here. Surely it will be the same. If you wanted to make sure, you can do it later. And then let's say if you wanted to go like what kind of server software is being used, like we have different software. So that I'm gonna use a server software. So right now in here I am using Apache, right? So I'm gonna use this software. So when I say software, which means that I am saying that my server is being hosted on what kind of software, because we may have different types of servers, right? So I'm using Apache and that's Unix and all those things. And if you are right, this one, I'm not sure which server they are using. So what I'm gonna do is copy paste and then save it and then try to run that. Let's see what they are using. So you see, they're also using Apache. There you go. So how about the client address? See, that's very important. Sometimes you wanted to apply some rules and regulations. Let's say I wanted to say client address. Usually they say whenever somebody is accessing you. So they are remote addresses, which means that they are remote address. So when he come here, so you should know that you are trying to see that the person that is trying to call you has an address, right? So when you write here, you should write remote underscore address. So it means that what is the address at client? Sorry, yes. So let's run it. So right now, client address and server address is the same because I'm using localhost. So I am the server requester and I am the sponsor. How about right now, if I change this here? So let's save it and try to see that. So so client address is 67.172.64.2. So there you go. You can go and understand more about like what are the different types of IP configurations. So what you can do is that based on the country IP kind of things, you can make sure that you can apply some restriction, or you can do more with such type of things. Just I hope it makes some sense, right? So sometimes you're not sure what kind of port is being used, like sometimes you're using 80 port or something. So let's say, what type of port are you using, client port or server port? I'm saying server port. So server underscore port. So when the same thing here, you come here and here you also write server underscore port. So you see, so when you say server port, it's going to help you to see what is the port here at server level. So it's 80 port, which means my system is using right now an 80 port. And if you have any signature, if you wanted to see like what kind of a script is being used, what kind of method is being used, you can do what time is request is being happening, what type of gateway it's being used, so you can get too much of it. I'm gonna pass you, this link. Maybe you can use it, like this W3 schools link. This is really useful if you wanted to see more about, global variable, that's super under dollar underscore server variable. If you have any other question that you wanted to ask from me, please do not hesitate to talk to me. Thank you so much, guys. See you in the next video. Bye bye.